We've been conditioned to believe that chasing perfect means we're improving, we're growing, we're doing our best, becoming the best that we can be. But what if we've got it all wrong? What if perfectionism is actually a trap? It's not possible. And if it's not possible, then what standards exactly are we striving for? And when is enough enough? Well, today we're unpacking the ugly truth about perfectionism, why it keeps you stuck, how to redraw the line between excellence and self-sabotage. You ready? So let's go. We've all been taught a lie about perfectionism, that it means you've got high standards and you're striving to be your best self. Well, I was raised with two parents who had high standards, and my relationship with perfectionism is rooted in what I call good girl conditioning. And that is, I was taught that to feel safe, to feel accepted, and to feel worthy, I better pony up and give 150% plus to everything that I did. And so I spent years showing up, overworking, burning myself out, instead of setting boundaries and reclaiming my own agency to say no, and enough is enough. According to researcher Brene Brown, perfectionism isn't about self-improvement, it's about self-protection. In one of my favorite foundational books, The Gifts of Imperfection, Brown calls perfectionism a 20-ton shield, something that we use to protect ourselves from criticism, judgment, and shame. The problem is that this shield also keeps us small. It stops us from taking risks, from putting our work out into the world, our ideas out there, and growing into the person that we were actually meant to be. Because here's the thing, perfection isn't about being better, it's about being accepted. And when our worth is tied to perfection, we're never free. Perfectionism isn't just a mindset, it's a pattern that shows up in the way that we think and how we interact with the world. Here are some common ways that perfectionism manifests in our life. 1, overthinking and analysis paralysis. You spend hours tweaking, refining, engineering, re-engineering, dotting I's, crossing T's, just afraid to release something that isn't flawless. I have a little nickname for us girls who tend to be in this. I call it the drafting queen. I'm kind of singing this to Dancing Queen by ABBA. But you know all those ideas and creations that are stuck in your draft box and never see the light of day. So you know what I'm talking about. But your 20-ton shield is this. It's the fear of being judged or exposed as not good enough. The shield says that if I just keep perfecting this, nobody can criticize me. But first of all, they're not even going to see it. But in reality, it keeps you stuck, it holds you back, and you're just never ready to move forward. Number 2, avoiding visibility. You don't speak up, you don't share your work, and you hold back because if it's not perfect, well, why bother putting it out there in the first place? But your 20-ton shield is this. It's the fear of rejection. The shield says, if I just stay quiet, if I don't show up, I don't risk being criticized or judged. But by avoiding visibility, you also avoid opportunities and impact and growth. And if you are a business builder, a business owner, an entrepreneur, this is where you're especially going to suffer. Number 3, procrastination as high standards. Well, you wait for the perfect time, the perfect conditions, the perfect strategy, so you end up doing nothing. Your 20-ton shield is this. It's the fear of failure. The shield says, if I wait until everything is perfect, I can't fail. But perfection never arrives. And the longer that you wait, the harder it is to actually get going. And lastly, it's moving the goalpost. No matter what you achieve, it's just never enough. The goal keeps shifting, and it's just always out of reach, right? This is the striver. Your 20-ton shield, it's the fear of unworthiness. The shield says, if I just achieve more, if I just produce more, if I just do more, then I will finally feel like I'm enough. But the finish line keeps moving because the real issue isn't about what you've achieved. It's the belief that you have to earn your worth. And the data backs this up. Studies show that perfectionism has steadily been increasing over the last 3 decades, especially among women. There are 2 specific studies that are featured in PubMed, one in a 2022 study examining gender differences in perfectionism, and it found that 72% of women surveyed identified as perfectionists compared to 65% of men. In a 2021 PubMed study involving adolescents, it reported that 15.8% of the girls who were surveyed exhibited high levels of mixed perfectionism compared to only 6.2% of boys. And that indicates that perfectionistic tendencies not only start early, but they're much more prevalent in females. So, if perfectionism isn't helping us, then why do we still keep chasing it? When is enough enough? Well, this is where perfectionism gets tricky because it blurs the line between healthy ambition and self-sabotage. How do you know when you're genuinely striving for excellence versus when you are chasing an unattainable standard? Well, here are some clues. Instead of asking, did I do my best? Ask, did I make progress? Rather than asking, is this perfect? Ask, is this valuable? Switch, am I working hard enough to, is this sustainable? When we don't define success for ourselves, we're going to default to somebody else's standard of success. And we're going to keep moving the goalpost, and it's never going to be enough. And we're going to feel like we've never arrived. So let's just pause for a moment, get centered, and ask ourselves, when is enough enough? Now, if you're constantly in that cycle of not good enough, here are 3 tips I'm going to leave for you to break the perfectionist loop and redraw the line. Number 1, define your enough. Ask yourself, 1, will I feel like I've done enough? At what point will it just feel like that's good enough? Because if you don't set this standard for yourself, then society is going to keep moving the goalposts for you. You're never going to be satisfied. And you're going to lead to burnout. Number 2, adopt the 90-10 rule. Well, if perfectionism aims for 100%, but then never gets finished, then if you aim for 90%, you're taking action, right? But I want to challenge you to go even more bold with the 730 rule. And what that means is that once you've 70% completed what it is that you're working on, you put it out there, and then you've got 30% where you can continue to tweak, dot the I's, cross the T's, but you can celebrate progress. You actually have something out there. It's scary, for sure, but it is doable. And number 3, get comfortable with messy action. The most successful people, they're not perfect. They're just consistent. And progress beats perfection anytime. I just have a little side note because I'm kind of looking at myself as I record this, and I'm looking at my hair. I have had like a lifelong tussle with my bedhead hair. I have been trying to tame it ever since I was in high school. I remember once that I would actually put my hair on the ironing board and I try to iron it to straighten it. And then I was in the Army after my hair was cut short. And even though it was above the collar, which is like standard issue policy, it was nappy hair. And I got criticized for that. And I was told that I needed to go get a haircut. And so I felt like perfect meant that my hair had to be straight, standard order, slick back, like the standards in the military. And today, to be honest with you, I would rather it be messy. And actually, if it's too refined, if it's too perfect, I'll go in there and I'll mess it up. Because feeling messy liberates me from perfectionism. So I don't know if that's a survival hack that I've learned or it's just a form of liberation, but take that for what it's worth, because a lot of that perfectionism for women kind of lies in the, I don't look good enough. I've got a flaw here and there, so I can't really show up. And I just say, F it, mess your hair up, show up online. Shoot, I don't even have a suit on. I didn't even really dress up. If you saw, I'm wearing yoga pants right now. Who cares? Who cares? Okay. So the bottom line is that when you shift your focus from perfection to progress, everything changes. And if I already said that, it's okay if I just said it twice, because then I'm driving the point home. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Perfectionism is not about protecting you. It's about preventing you. The goal is never to be perfect. It was to be real and courageous and willing to show up before you're ready. It's been a hard lesson for me to learn. But once I have learned to detach from other people's opinions and other outcome and celebrate the accomplishments that I've made, life just has amazingly changed for me. There's so much more inner peace. I just feel liberated, and I want that for you too. So let's start a conversation. Drop a comment below and tell me what's one way perfectionism has held you back, and what is one step that you can take today to let it go. And if you're done chasing perfect and you're ready to rewrite the playbook, hit subscribe. This is just the beginning. Now let's go and rewrite some rules. See you in the next video.